Redditors who quit a steady job to follow a passion. What's your story? What did you leave? What did you start? And how has it turned out? I didn't quit a steady job, but I did drop out of school to follow my dreams. I finished my freshman year of college and had a moment of inspiration. I was going to bicycle across the USA. So in the summer of 2010 I biked from Portland to New York City. Despite an absent cycling partner and having no idea what I was doing on 20-year-old equipment. It was the time of my life. In early 2012 I dropped out of school. I was a junior. I sold my car, my drum set and bicycled across Europe and across most of the USA again. This spring I'm going to bike from Niagara Falls to Anchorage, Alaska and live there for a month. After that month is up, I'll have a one-way tickets to Asia waiting. I'm hoping to teach English in India. I have a friend who put himself through paramedic and fire school. He got a great job making $65K and had the ability to retire comfortably 25 years later. 5 years into it he got bored and decided to chase his dreams. It was a huge mistake. 2 years later the company he helped start has failed and he can't find another firefighting job. He's spiraled into depression and his life is starting to come apart at the seams. His experience only reinforced my belief that you do something to pay the bills so you can do something you love. You only quit and try to do it full time until there's no doubt the cash flow is there to support yourself. I had a great job doing PR for a library. I was making more money than I ever had before and all around loved my job. It was a difficult decision, but I decided to go travel instead. I left my job, used all of my savings, and moved to Chile. I studied at a local university to improve my Spanish and took a few months to backpack through Chile, Argentina, Peru, and Uruguay. I'm back in the United States now working the most boring job ever. But I wouldn't change a thing. On my trip, I met some of the greatest people in the world, and the whole adventure changed my life. Terrible. I resigned from my last job to pursue a job I actually would enjoy doing for the rest of my life. Something along the lines of my two greatest passions, motoring and cooking. I was previously a structural drafter for a big engineering firm and was getting steady work that I was pretty good at. Fancy clients to name drop. Office job. Plenty of perks. Busty HR girls yada yada. It was very comfortable. After leaving, I realized how stupid a move it was. I had no money to support myself or my girlfriend, as I was naive enough to think I would find something I wanted soon. The market ATM is tough. Hiring just doesn't occur around this time and my girlfriend is paying for a lot of my stuff. Thankfully, she's the most amazing woman I've ever met, and is very supportive regarding my situation. Recently, less than a week, I've picked up a casual position working as a car park attendant. I just need the monies. The dream will come true soon, hopefully. Comma and I'll be slapping a ring on my girl's finger when it does. After college I worked at Apple Computer's headquarters. In 2008 when the economy tanked I had to get a job at a deli. I worked there for years. While I was there I started making these little films with my flip cam. Then I saved for a $400 Nikon Page 500 so I could make a music video for my band. It turned out really well. So I saved every penny and bought some editing software, some lights, and started doing video jobs on the side. Every morning I would wake up at about 5 AM and tackle the Adobe Classroom in a book series learning After Effects, Premiere, Photoshop and Illustrator. Then I spent 6 months saving for a real camera, the Canon HFG10. Then, right after the new year, with a nice portfolio of demo work, all done before the sun came up every day, and about $1,000 in the bank, I started working on my own production company full time. I started with low paying jobs but I made sure that every day I was doing something. I did a ton of jobs in my first year and got all my bills paid. I did weddings, birthday parties, tons of music videos, and corporate spots. I even was contracted to work on a few projects for major companies like Chevron and Del Monte. I was able to buy a new camera, the Canon 5D Mark II along with some new audio gear. I created great relationships with my local camera rental place, where I rent all my big lights and extra gear. It's been a year since I quit the deli. I didn't make a ton of money, but I made enough to pay all my bills, get new gear, buy my lady a new MacBook and an engagement ring. I have a business license and have to pay a ton of taxes. But my worst day doing this is still better than my best day at the deli. I was a store manager at GameStop. It was terrible. I decided I'd rather make games than sell them. So I quit with no real plan. After about a month of being unemployed, I got a customer service job at Blizzard. Through that job I met J. Allen Brack and decided I wanted to do what he did, producer. Now I work at BioWare as a development manager. Everything went better than expected. I've been in IT for 19 years. It was really fun in the early and mid 90s. Before every AOL tard and grandma discovered the interwebs. Before Y2K. Before idiot managers destroyed the enjoyment of technology. I just walked away from a $75k job that was going nowhere, but going well. It provided for my lifestyle and involved interesting technologies. However, the managers were tools and the customers clueless. I now live at 9,500 feet of elevation at a world-class ski resort. I am making $60 a night tending bar and waiting tables. I eat and drink extremely well. I ski nearly every day. The summer mountain biking is world-class. Yes, I am struggling on the financial side. However, clarity of thought, fitness of body and lack of anger and hatred toward my fellow man make up for the moderate income I was struggling with. 15 years of wage stagnation. Simply not worth it. I worked at Wachovia Corporate for 3.5 miserable years. After the merger with Wells Fargo, most of my team left and I was sort of adopted by another manager for HR purposes. I kept my own time card and there was really nothing for me to do at work. I pretty much was sitting around waiting to be displaced. At the same time I was getting my EMT basic certification. Well, March came around and one day I decided it was just too nice outside to go to work. I turned in my 2-week notice on a Monday and Wednesday night after EMT class. Came back to the office. Packed up my desk. Slipped notes under the doors of the co-workers I liked. And never came back. It took 2 days for anyone to realize I wasn't there. I also cashed out the meager amount of $sign left in my 401k and took it easy for the next month. Eventually found a bartending gig which helped make ends meet as public service folks don't make much at all. $9.15/HR. Fast forward to 5 years. I will graduate from nursing school in May and can't wait to begin my new career. Yes, I've had to take out student loans and work 30 hours a week on top of school to make ends meet, but it's been worth it. Taking charge of my happiness and my future is the most empowering thing I've ever done. I helped open a small mom and pop restaurant bar. I love them like family. However, I want to work for myself and contribute to society. I can't sit behind a desk for 8 hours. If I had $1 million and didn't have to work, what would I do? That's easy. I'd do yoga all day. One of the hardest things was to tell my boss, I can't work at night anymore, I have yoga teacher training. Since I'm not going to turn into a guru overnight or over 3 months. I knew my journey would take a while. I've been lucky enough to wean myself off the restaurant. Slowly cutting back on restaurant shifts as my yoga classes begin to fill up. It's been hard. But the harder I work for myself, the more satisfying my life has become. I really feel like I'm contributing to society and thus bettering everyone I come in contact with because I'm able to serve them better since I'm happy. It's like flying on an airplane. Put your own mask on before helping others. If you try helping other without your own mask on, you'll die, and then who can help others? I like to tell my students, make little mistakes. This is how we learn. No risk, nothing gained. Avoid big mistakes because then you may get hurt. But life is not perfect and appreciate what you've learned from your smaller mistakes. Strive for the balance, not perfection. Close bracket. When I was in high school, I was a decent baseball player. Good enough to get drafted by the Blue Jays. Despite only playing one game my senior year, I made the mistake of turning the contract down to go to school. That turned into 10 years of bad mistakes. Last year, I was coaching for a semi-pro team that I'd occasionally throw for. Just for fun. I ended up throwing against one of the top teams in the country at our World Series. Threw a gem of a game. Shutting them out. The next day a scout from the Angels calls me over. With contract in hand. Asks my age. Not realizing I was a coach. I told him my age. And he snatched the contract out of my hand. Kinda devastated. So I quit my full-time job. Train 6 days a week. And I will reach my dream. I'm applying to PhD programs in astronomy. Hopefully one of them will admit me so I can quit my extremely meh analyst job and live on the pittance they call a grad stipend for 7 years. Then jockey with hundreds of far more qualified people for postdocs and faculty jobs. It's worth the risk. The best feeling in the world is the one you get when your clunky homebrewed data analysis scripts work and you start turning your nice clean data into figures and then you have results with acceptable error bars and it's real and right there, and no matter how small or collaborative an effort, you have just proven something. And all the late nights, bad observing weather, buggy programs, crashed computers, Unix struggles, and frustration are suddenly insignificant. Because it all ended with you pushing the boundary of human knowledge outward just a tiny bit. I have never felt more purposeful or significant than I did during my very brief career in science. I have to get that feeling back. I've always wanted to be a writer. Ever since I was a teenager. After graduating college, I taught music, private lessons. I taught high school for a year. And then I finally worked up the nerve to take on a part-time job and consolidate my bills so that I could really write. I've been working on a novel for 2 years while substitute teaching, which is the most annoying way to pay your bills ever. It's a few months away from being finished. So I can't tell you if it was a smart move. But I know that I would have been miserable to have never tried. The good news is that no matter how shitty or unprofitable the novel might end up being, I'll be happy with the final product. At the end of the day, you have to decide for yourself. There are days where I'm honestly terrified about quitting the more accepted path of life. I'm uninsured. So questions about what I would do if I got sick, or if I got in a car wreck, keep me awake some nights. But most days, I feel genuine purpose and a deep sense of pride and happiness in what I've chosen to do with my life. That's what courage really is. Being afraid. Suffering through self-doubt. But doing what you believe is right. There's not a single person on this planet who can look into your soul and tell you what to do with yourself. Which can be a scary or a reassuring feeling. Just remember that your life only belongs to you. I quit my job working for a local trash company because my boss, who was also my friend, was a complete FCK and made me hate my life. Treated me like absolute shit, making it hard to even get out of bed to go to work. One day I snapped. Gave an ultimate FCKU speech. And told them to eat my shit. Shortly after, a good friend of mine approached me to run the business end of what we're calling Never Done Garage. It's basically perfect. Working with people who have a passion for automobiles. Creating. Having a say in how things are done. I make considerably less, but I'm glad I quit. The money will come hopefully. If not, I'm happy. This post is terrible. Posted from my phone. I was working as an office clerk for a small company for 2.5 years. They were really good to me there. And if I wanted to, I could have made a career out of it. But I'd always dreamed about being a scientist. So I quit my job and traveled halfway across the continent to attend graduate school in archaeology. Unlike chemistry or engineering, archaeology jobs pay like shit and are hard to come by. It's a pure research field. With little commercial application. I'm now $30k in debt. Owe the university $8k that I don't have. Have several incomplete classes hanging over my head. One more class to take. and a thesis to write. I'm currently working retail to make ends meet. And I am very lonely. I'm hoping to finish by the end of the summer of 2013. But it's going to be tough. I'm not sure I'd made the same decision to return to school again if I was allowed to go back. My other half and I left two decent 9-5 jobs that ended up consuming between 50-80 hours per week. Both of us started freelancing and ended up in Central America working 25 hours a week with remote jobs. It's been over a year now. And although it's not without the occasional bump in the road, we don't regret a thing. Thanks to a low cost of living. And even though we're making a fraction of our salaries, our bank accounts never looked better. We're much healthier. And we've never been happier. I've always been quite good at web design. I wanted to start a website during my high school years and use it as sort of a financial crutch for my college savings. I really wanted to start a site similar to The Art of Manliness, keep in mind. This was in 2007. Long before that site opened, and had my site Masculine Style opened for close to a year before Art of Manliness opened in January of 2008. Long story short, they gained higher traffic than my site, sapped most of my readers, and I shut down. Don't get me wrong. I love the site and the guys who write it. But it sucks when your business gets crushed by someone who was later to the game. A lot of my same content was written before they had it on their site. Not the exact same content, but similar content. My wife and I were married in the summer of 2011. And we're both from Ohio. She took a job in Atlanta at one of the premier high schools in the area. I followed her down and eventually found a great job working for CNN. We had our first child last spring. Wasn't necessarily the plan, but I love him to death. Made the executive decision to move back closer to home. Despite these two outstanding careers. To be closer to his grandparents since he's the first grandson on both sides. I'm nowhere near the big time now. Just working IT at a local rehab clinic. My wife is currently still unemployed. We moved in August, as we wait for schools to start posting jobs in her field, Latin. Definitely don't have any regrets, as I'm sure everything will work out in the end despite the one small income at the moment. But it's hard to put a price on our family spending more time with our son. Not well. So far. I had an okay printing job. I actually would be excited about work sometimes. It was retail. But I still did production. So it wasn't total customer service. The days when I knew I had work to do were kind of the best. I could tell customers I was busy. For the most part. I did not like it though. I was trying to move up within the company. As that seemed like a path for me. I was considered for two different positions. And got neither. And that's when I got pretty fed up and left. I thought to myself, why did I care so much about getting either of those promotions? I told myself I wanted them. But I really didn't. I told myself to pursue something where I can be creative. Writing. Comedy. Art. Act. Now I have to deal with motivating me. Who is kind of a shithead in that department. Overcoming my social anxiety. Which I'm terrible at. Also the fact I have no money and I'm unemployed and living with my parents. I've been trying to get another job. Some crappy retail one. I feel like I have nothing to show for it. No library of work to be proud of. I could have had a job I was unhappy with and had some more money. Instead I largely have nothing and I'm still unhappy. I haven't made the jump yet, but working towards it. I was one of those kids in high school who never really knew what he wanted to do. I went to university. Switched majors 4 times and ended up in history, which I did enjoy. But I knew employment opportunities would be scarce. I worked part-time for government in an unrelated field and worked hard to get in full-time after I graduated. I at least wanted to get a steady job so I wouldn't have to rely on anyone. I of course have been hating every day of it since I have been full-time. But after a few years reflecting on my case, and a mental breakdown, I figured out I wanted to go into nursing or another health-related career. I am currently finishing high school science credits. I went the arts way in HS. Didn't feel like homework, while working full-time. We are expecting a baby too very soon myself, and this has also contributed to my motivation. Once the fiancé finishes uni, it will be my turn to go back to school. Some people have questioned my choice. Others have been very supportive. But I finally feel like I'm working towards my goals and general happiness. My advice: find what makes you happy. What skills you have that you are already good at, and work towards your dream. In my 20s, I used to work at a bookstore making slightly more than minimum wage. It wasn't a lot of responsibility, and the ability to date customers was a plus. Also made a lot of close friends there. After finishing school in an unrelated major, I decided to give animation one more try. I drew all the time but never found steady work in the field. Which is why I resigned myself to working in that bookstore until the new management became too strict for my liking. When giving it a go this time, I only took on clients who were willing to pay at least the CA minimum wage. Soon it became a full-time job, and I increased my rates every time I felt I was working too hard. Now I draw exclusively for a single client and work as a middleman, connecting other clients with other artists. I earn more than the store manager at that bookstore. Future goals include finding ways to earn income from my own cartoon and game ideas. And world domination. I left school and went straight into a career in IT. I was always good with computers. For the next 10 years I climbed up the ladder till I was running a full school network by myself, which was fun and all, but the pleasure in what I was doing was fading fast. One day I knew, it's now or never, time to change or decide to stick it out for good. After some soul searching and looking to my options, I decided to lay it all on the line and change my career. I signed up for a short crash course in VFX. Did the course and was lucky enough to get my course costs funded. 1 year later I was qualified and had one studio placement under my belt. 3 years on I'm working at the biggest VFX studio in London, working on some amazing films. I say make an informed choice. Being able to live with the success and the punishments. I love what I do now. And that pleasure and happiness has carried over into my personal life. But it has also left me with a bit of debt. And a drop in my salary since I started a new career. Regrets? None. I worked for an ass of a boss who demanded I write down everything he said because he hated sending emails. My last day of work I was editing a commercial for a local company and asked him for a creative spec, what font, what colors to use, pacing and feel etc. And he blows up on me telling me that I just need to do it and I don't need no damn creative spec sheet. In return I tried to explain that there is a certain way of going about creative work so everybody is on the same page and things get done right the first time. He replies with telling me that video editors are a dime a dozen, and if I didn't like the way he does things then he will find somebody who will. I quit and took his top 4 clients with me because they knew all I did 99% of the work. Now I work freelance and I work from home on a super fast amazing computer that I have been able to afford from my freelance work. I had a very nice high paying consulting job out of college. Was flying across the country and getting steak dinners at 5-star restaurants paid for. Totally hated it after a month. After 3 months I quit. I really wanted to create my own business and be my own man. After 2 very tough years, in which I lost friends and a serious girlfriend, had to move back in with my folks for a while, and suffered depression for quite a bit of it. I am proud to say last month my business made $10K in profit and is expected to surpass that this month. And I have a much nicer apartment and a better girlfriend. Wasn't easy. Wasn't fun. But I got lucky and never gave up. I credit a lot of exercise to my success. I was a routine scientist after finishing university whose job was run tests on a product and basically give lip service to the customers saying how great their product was passing all the tests if we ever had anomalous results. We were doing it wrong. My dream job has always been to design affordable medicines for developing countries and fly them around the place. Would much prefer to physically see the patients receive them instead of trusting the governments to send them around. To do this, I need a PhD minimum. I got an offer to do a master's course, which is effectively a first year PhD, and if I do well enough a transfer is possible. I dropped my job. I dropped my life I had over there and moved back to nearer home. Currently I'm living on limited cash and recently given the go ahead for a PhD. Now, me and my supervisor are battling it out to find funding to make it all possible. A bit different. I quit a sure thing in school to do something nobody believed in me for. I was in school to do an English degree to become a teacher. I had a scholarship there. It was really easy for me. Sure bet. My parents wanted me to do it. My teachers wanted me to do it. I did really well. But I said fuck this. I loved music. I decided to switch and do a music degree instead. Everyone told me not to. They said I wasn't good enough. I had pretty much zero support except for my best friend. After a year in music, I got 2 scholarships. One of the top in my class. I'm not finishing off my degree. I'm still top of my class. I love everything I do. I love the people. The profs. My coursework. I'm well set up for a job teaching band. My dream job. Of everything I ever did in life, following my passion was the smartest decision. Though I always say, follow your passion smartly. If you drop out to go tour bars in a rock band, chances are, you won't make it. Follow your dreams so that it has structure. Enroll in music school. Get a degree. You can make money as a studio musician with that. Or teach private lessons. Or become a band teacher. Or audition for orchestras. Etc. Too many people don't realize you still have to structure your goals. I know it's not quite what you're looking for. But I'll be leaving the big city and moving in with my parents for 3-6 months so that I can properly set up my portfolio. Do a few quick photography jobs and budget out a feature film. I'm 26 and work nearly full time. Which kills my enthusiasm to shoot shorts, even though I'm shooting one today. But I write constantly. The hard part right now is making a living, as filmmaking is about as far from a sure thing as you can get. Regardless, it's all I want to do. So I'll settle for being a failure a few months to hopefully succeed after. My dad worked at UPS for 15 years. He was a supervisor for most of those years. The pay was nice and the benefits were even better. My dad was miserable and had blood pressure issues. Before he went to work for UPS, he had gone to California and studied to be a jeweler and gemologist. My grandpa was a jeweler and owned his own store. My dad wanted to do jewelry work and eventually take over my grandpa's store. But when he finished school at JAR, there were too many jewelry stores in our small town. On my parents' 20th wedding anniversary, he told us he had quit UPS and was going to open a store. It was a little scary and a little rough at first, but now their store is amazing and does really well. We reopened it as the same name as my grandpa's. And when we set up the phones, we were able to get the same number as my grandpa's store. Their store does so well that my dad goes to Antwerp, Belgium at least once a year to pick out diamonds straight from the cutters. So much better than UPS. Close bracket. I'm actually just about to start this process, so I'm glad to see this thread for some advice. I've had my real job in banking and finance for the better part of the past 5 years. I've played music since I was 5 years old. And I've been a guitarist for the last 10 years. Music has always been my passion and the love of my life. But I've always grown up hearing how it is typically a dead-end career and being discouraged. Nonetheless, I've still continued my practice and love of guitar while working in finance. Never expecting to make a career from it. After playing with anyone and everyone I've come across, I just became a member of a very well-established band 4 months ago. We've been playing about 6 shows a month for the last 3 months that I've been in the band. All while I've balanced my life with a 9-5 job. We are finalizing plans for a string of 3 tours all across the US starting in 6 weeks. I'll leave my soul-sucking finance job that pays me well in a month for my #1 passion in life. Music. So many feelings are going through my mind at the moment. Mostly of excitement and positive energy. but also the uncertainty and fear that goes with dropping your comfortable daily routine for something new. Any words of wisdom, advice, Reddit? Don't know if this counts. I didn't have a cushy 9-5 office job or anything, but I had steady income and likely job security. Only problem was I was absolutely miserable. My wife was continuing with her school, getting an MSc and later PhD, and I had nothing past high school but had a real passion for archaeology and religious studies. I don't have a success story yet, but I will graduate in 6 months and start my own path down the graduate school road while my wife will be looking for work. I've never been happier. Despite the fact that there is little money for niceties. We are certainly not starving, but we cannot even think about children, buying a house, car, etc. I quit my job as a setup engineer in a precision manufacturing plant. Not a super cushy job, but 50k a year and comfortable. I didn't mind the people I worked with, but I didn't like the work at all. I really wanted to become a trader on Wall Street. Or at the time that's what I thought. So I quit my job and moved to California, SF, and started looking for a job in finance so I could make this thing happen. Turns out, I went through several internships, got fired twice, and lost a ton of money trading my own account to gain experience. But today, at 25 years old, I am a junior portfolio manager at a hedge fund in SF. And I love my job. For me, it's the constant excitement of the market. I played sports growing up, and it's very similar in some respects. Knowing what I know now, I would never want to work on Wall Street. For those who are pondering the leap of faith into their passion, I have one observation for you that might be useful. All the successful ventures I have had in my life were made possible when I surrounded myself with people of high quality that were way smarter than me and more experienced than me. The right people is the key to any venture.